or Jose, is there anything else that you need to add before we move on to the volunteer report? Okay, moving on to the volunteers report, Morgan.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I actually was interesting that you guys were talking about veggie selection, because I know that with the garden kind of starting from ground zero, that's been a part of the conversations that I've kind of heard and seen is kind of the question of what to put in. And so definitely it would be nice to hear some of the other, because we do need to make sure the garden is sustainable, but I want to make sure that the volunteers have an ear to that as well. A lot of times we grow really cool things like the cheddar cauliflower, or like these really beautiful green cubic or like fractal cauliflower. But we were also talking about doing things that were more kitchen staples. So doing more carrots, doing onions, doing garlic, and those will also be really great because there might be some weeks where all we have to do is weed, because these are crops that take longer to mature. So I know I spoke with Raquel.
Why haven't we heard jalapenos yet?
Yeah, I planted some 20 jalapeno plants starting February, and we lost them.
They burn. That's why they burn so quickly.
We need some
they get sunburns.
Poppers.
Yeah, they get big too. Like if you get them right, they get really big, but you have to be careful. Yeah, peppers are more temperamental than you would expect. And I know, I think Raquel spoke with you, Roger, about something like that. So I definitely think it needs to, a more structured approach would be wonderful. But if I could at least, I know we talked about making some committees, just kind of some information on how that can go, because I can definitely, I know there's a bunch of people who are very interested, not just in Canseco, but also in Hillside. And what I'm hearing from everyone right now is like, we do need to put in the work. We do need to, pull absolutely everything, amend the soil, and plant again. This is the hard work. But we need to get also to a place where we can maintain without hours of labor, and make that, makes the garden an enjoyable escape again. Because I think we just need to make sure that we're balancing that. And the people who've been coming for years know a lot about that. So just definitely, if you could go ahead and we're allowed to meet in these groups outside the monthly meetings, right?
It would have to.
Okay.
I get it today, as long as it's 5 or less.
Okay, so if it's okay with you, Roger, I might reach out to Raquel and Jose and like 2 other people, and we can try and set up a meeting time.
Yes. So actually, I had reached out to Raquel one night I was cooking, and I remember she was talking a lot about how we should be sourcing food, and so I asked her to be the chair of that committee, and then to try to gather, the restaurant owners. And from what you just said, I think it makes a lot of sense to have to get the volunteers, really, right? Because you're the ones helping us, build this out, and you're part of the community. So if you've already had that discussion with her, either you or her, I would love to make the chair of that committee, so that way you can start organizing these meetings. I really think, the restaurant owners would be really great to have on there. Of course, we respect your time, whatever you can help us out with insights, right, as to what you'd be willing to buy at scale. Because ideally, right, we want to make this a sustainable ecosystem where there is revenues coming in, and one of the biggest potential buyers is going to be restaurant owners as a whole. So
exactly.
Have their take. We can discuss further.
Great job kind of plotting out the garden so that we're not, for example, we're succession planning, so that we're not just having carrots, all of the carrots in 2 weeks. We're going to plant 1 row 1 week, space it out for 2 weeks so that we have a continual harvest. Right. And that's exactly what we want or the volunteers want, because they're also needing to stock our kitchens. And like I said, some of these specialty items are really awesome, but we use carrots, cilantro, jalapenos way more.
Right. I think, Morgan, I definitely think we need to include you also in the meeting with Jose and Maita, and it might be good for you to meet with your group first, and that way you can get that point of view and then bring it into our meeting. So it'd be good, I think, for you to meet first, and then we'll set up the meeting between you and Jose and Maita and me, so we can further discuss that.
Okay, excellent. So just less than 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 board members.
Yeah, 5 board members.
5 board members. Oh, okay.
You can meet with the volunteers with your group, and then us separately will meet.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of, I guess, grill you on your point of view, and then kind of try to put together a cohesive plan of sorts.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're not gonna go Jeff Gordon and Ramsey on her, are you? Jeff Gordon.
So I have a question. I recently saw the mural in Clark, who was in charge of that initiative. He painted. They have native plants and families harvesting some produce, and I mean I'm happy with that. It's beautiful.
That was a project initiated by Councilman Alberto Torres, by the way. And just so you'll know, we have a mural coming to Canseco. I just approved about $23,000 for a mural at Canseco, and it'll be right behind on the wall.
Awesome.
Should be nice. That's gonna be nice.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Councilman.
And we need a lease.
Well, if you don't, I want to do more. I'd like to do more. And if we need to get that carriage house ready, I think I don't know if it's still having problems with the water permeating through the walls or something like that. But as soon as this COVID stuff is ready, I mean, it'd be nice to be meeting over there.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, Councilman. Sorry.
That's okay. Give me an assignment. Have me do something. I'll just give me an assignment and we'll get it done.
Thank you all. I think we had a good discussion around the selection. That just wanted to kind of top off there. After this next meeting, just if you're all going to be meeting together, please just kind of decide who will help kind of keep this going. Chair, co-chair, whatever we need, just so that there's some sustainability around that. I think long-term planning. So just something to keep in mind for the meeting. And let me know if it's an online meeting. I'd love to also hear that discussion. And so please send me an invite, and we'll let everyone know.
Nope, that was it really. So as long as I can get that going, and like I said, bring it to you guys, that's kind of my goal for the next short-term goal, the next meeting.
I'd also like to chime in on volunteers. Thank you for including Mr. Lopez and the veterans. They're super happy, and if you can include them even more, I mean, if you need them to do grunt work, I think they're willing. But they're very, very happy to be included. So,
yeah, I make communicate with him a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. The next item we have is discussion and possible action on developing partnerships with local nonprofits on community gardens. I believe that was for Councilmember Cigarroa, or was that for?
That's correct. And she informed me that unfortunately she can't make this meeting, so I motion to table this till next meeting.
You got it. There's a motion. All those in favor? All against? Your motion carries. Thank you. Am I supposed to do a motion to move on to each item? Actually. Okay, maybe.
No, you don't need a motion to go into items. You just go through the agenda. Once you finish the agenda, most people will motion to adjourn. But if I'm not mistaken, in the rubber rules of order, when you reach the end of the agenda, you are automatically adjourned.
Great. I thought maybe just if there was a discussion of possible action, but the reports, we can just fly through them, right? If necessary. Perfect. Okay, because the next one we also have a report with possible action on Food Policy Council. I'm going to give the floor to Karen Gaitan. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. It's so exciting to be here. I see a couple of familiar faces, so it's so good to see you. And for those who don't know me, my name is Karen Gaitan. I'm a food advocate and a consultant with City Makery. And it's really exciting to see all the work that's unfolded in the last 3 years. I believe the first time I was involved with the formation of this group, it was beginning to see the seeds of what's already beginning to, flourish, no pun intended. But I wanted to invite you guys on a presentation about the formation of a food policy council, which is basically, as we're doing all of these different efforts to address our status as a food district, is what can we do to act in a holistic and comprehensive way. So if at any point there's any questions, I don't know if you can hear my dog in the background, feel free to let me know in the chat and I can, go over anything. So I'm going to share my screen, I think. Oh, yikes. All right. I don't think it's allowing me to share my screen. So let me troubleshoot.
I just gave you the permissions.
Oh, okay. It's making me switch browsers. So I think I need to change to Google Chrome because I'm doing Safari. Just give me 1 minute while I try to figure this out. Okay, can you share screen? Okay, awesome. Can you guys see this? All right, I'm going to try to do this and see if this works. Okay, not a good idea. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and start, and if there's any questions, feel free to jump in at any point. So the point of the Food Policy Council is to create a food plan for Laredo's future. So we were going over the purpose and authorization for the Center for Urban Agriculture and Sustainability. And in the bylaws, it stated that some of our main purpose is to increase the access to food, educate the community, increase the access to entrepreneurial opportunities, cultivate soil, water, and air opportunities. And here, as you can see in the purpose E and F, it says that we're facilitating the Food Policy Council and developing policy and incentives to address our status as a food desert. So a local food system is comprised of many different sectors, including the production of the food, the processing and packaging, the distribution and retail, giving access to different groups and educating them on nutrition, consumption, and waste. How are we disposing of our food in sustainable ways? So, as opposed to acting in, we are doing all these efforts with community gardens, but we're trying to approach our food plan in a comprehensive way that not only increases access, but really brings in all of the different players that contribute to our food ecosystem. So the point of this is to enhance environmental, economic, and social health of our city, the collaborative network. So back in 2018, when we were still in the beginning stages of many of these efforts, Mark Winnie, a food consultant, met at the health department. I believe many of you were there. And it really was one of the first attempts to bring in our local food players. Back then, many of these different organizations were in attendance: the Parks Department, Casa Misericordia, Laredo College Culinary Arts, different holding institutes, many different community gardens. But in actuality, in order to move this forward to the next step, we'd be bringing in players from all of the different sectors of the food system. So who are people that are involved in production, who are people that are involved in processing and packaging, players involved in distribution and retail, access and nutrition, consumption and waste. So I included a couple of the organizations and entities that attended our workshop back a couple of years ago, but this list is not extensive. We are still, we would need to invite people from the waste industry and the processing and packaging industry. And, as we do more research, we'll figure out who the right players are. But it needs to be, Mark Winnie recommended that it's 17 to 23 organizations that are part of this comprehensive board. So the goal of the Food Policy Council is to come up with metrics to address the food needs of a particular area through a 1-year, 3-year, and 5-year plan. And from that, we then establish policy for each objective and area that we're trying to address. So I wanted to show you guys the example of, many cities adopt these food policy councils. In fact, it's what allows them to access grants and funding, which I know that earlier in the meeting we were talking about developing a plan for that. So one of the examples that we looked at and we'd like to model after is Detroit. They've done incredible work in developing metrics, and this is just one example of what this can look like. So they identified 12 areas. How many people will be able to have access to a grocery store within a 30,000 square feet radius? Percentage of households that are food insecure. That's how they're measuring their goals, the goals that that they're trying to accomplish. So number of farmers markets, number of Detroit-based growers, number of community gardens. And they do a yearly report where, based on these metrics, then they can say like, well, the change from 2018 to 2019 is that it decreased in 3%. Number of households that are food insecure increased by 6%. Number of households that are using SNAP benefits increased by 1%. So they identified, basically what I'm trying to get at is that they identified these key pointers that they can use to measure whether they're reaching their goals or not. And as you can see, some of these, only 2 of their metrics improved from year to year. 5 of them actually worsened. Another 5 of them just basically stayed the same. So it allows them to then reassess their efforts and see if they're meeting their quotas and they're meeting their goals of making Detroit food secure. So from that, what ended up happening from these metrics is they developed policy. So policy changes these are some of the examples of what was adopted. They adopted GUSNIP, which is enshrined as line item program in federal budget. It was no longer a pilot program. They were able to adopt it. They were able to pass the governor, advocate in state legislatures so the governor could hire a food security director for the state of Michigan and develop an Office of Urban Agriculture in the 2018 Farm Bill, which was then, they were able to secure funds the following year for $5 million. So these are just some examples of how other councils have been able to use metrics to advocate for policy, secure funding, and really address the needs of the community at large through a food plan, which I think is really, really cool, really inspiring and impressive. And it's something that we can definitely model in our own backyard. So what we wanted to propose to this board, the proposed course of action, and what the next steps would be is to create a subcommittee. In order for us to create this food policy council and to come up with this plan, we estimate it's going to take about 6 months to really formulate and kick it off the ground and have it take on a life of its own. So we would like to invite you guys to create a subcommittee specifically for the Food Policy Council with a minimum of two board members. It's a minimum, but if more people are into this idea and would like to get more involved, of course, we encourage you to do so. So at least the executive director and one more board member. The subcommittee would then commit to 2 additional meetings per month with City Makery. We would be assisting with the preparation of agendas and the facilitation process until this 6-month trial period kicks off. The executive director would be responsible for recording and doing meeting notes of the board meetings and then sending them to us a week before our committee meetings and council meetings for review. The executive director would send out the agendas, meeting notes, and call the Food Policy Council attendees to remind them to attend the meetings. And we would report on the Food Policy Council formation to your board at the monthly meeting. So we estimate it's going to take about whoever commits to being part of the subcommittee would probably commit to about 3 hours. So your monthly board meeting, a meeting with the Food Policy Council, which is a 17-member board, and then an intermediate meeting with City Makery, where we strategize, develop the scope of plan, come up with strategies and objectives, and so on and so forth. So what we foresee happening in the timeline for the next couple of months is that in March, we would have a meeting with the Food Policy Council subcommittee and begin identifying those 17 organizations that we want to be part of the Food Policy Council. There would be no Food Policy Council meeting in March as we begin to do the outreach. But then in April, we would have the first meeting with the board members of the Laredo Food Policy Council. And ideally, after 6 months, what we want is to, for your board, the Laredo Center for Urban Agriculture and Sustainability, to facilitate the council. But ideally, there would be 2 independent organizations whose work overlaps and is highly connected, but work independently. I think that's the end of my presentation. But what I find really exciting about this proposition is that we've been doing all of this amazing work for several years now. So it's an opportunity to act comprehensively and really address the needs in a strategic and measurable way. I don't know, does anyone have any questions or comments so far on any of the things presented?
Karen, I remember going to Mark Winnie's presentation, and it was a good learning experience for us here at the health department. And then we also went to Tammy U and heard his presentation over there. So, I'm excited that, we're still keeping this endeavor alive. I think that there's little ways that we can improve as a community when it comes to this project. So, absolutely, I'm glad we're still working on it.
If you're looking for a volunteer, how do you want to go about that?
Yes, I would also love to help. And then also, I was wondering, I know you showed the Detroit metrics. Would we come up with similar metrics or would you use the same ones? Would that be something that the Food Policy Council would kind of decide?
Yeah, the Policy Council would decide it. I think Detroit is an excellent base point, an example that we can look at, but it's not, we're not defined by it. If there's a particular area that affects Laredo that does not affect Detroit, we can add it. Or if there's something that, vice versa as well, like if it works for Detroit, but it doesn't really apply to us, we can get rid of it. But there's many examples that, we can take a look at and I think it's great that those resources exist for us to use as a foundation.
Okay.
But that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear. So I'll write down Morgan and Bobby as two members. Anyone else?
Jose?
Jose, awesome.
I'll definitely be joining some of these meetings, so please let me know as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent presentation.
But of course. So I think the next step would be we'll create a meeting time for the subcommittee to meet, and we can begin identifying those organizations. But like you mentioned, Guillermo, it's really exciting to see kind of the next steps and really see this initiative kick off in a much more solidified way.
I love the idea of KPIs as well, key performance metrics, just across the organizations, all of them, right? And how we're collaborating. The only way we can affect it is if we're measuring it. So I'm looking forward to those, and those discussions. And of course, Jose, thank you for also, you'll be highly involved with that, definitely. So, if there's anything y'all need, let us know. Thank you for, kind of taking the reins on this Food Policy Council as part of LCOES, and you have our support. If there's anything you need, let us know and try to make it happen.
Very good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Of course. Is there any action you need for today, or is just to get board members on board? Or?
Yeah, I think the only action is to get the volunteers. So I've written down Morgan, Jose, and Bobby as our 3 subcommittee members for now.
Great. Well, with that, if there's other comments across the board, or is there any other comments before I head to adjourn the meeting?
We should just come up with a date for the next meeting so we can have it officially recorded.
Okay.
Karen,
also had a
yeah, Karen, can you send me your presentation, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna put my $2 in the chat.
Okay.
So for meeting wise, we have been doing for meeting purpose, we have been doing 4th Thursdays at 11 every month. That's kind of what we have been doing. Last week was an exception, so we did first. Would y'all like to switch to the first Thursdays or continue with the 4th Fridays? That means we would have 2 in March, or we could just start again April 1st.
Thursdays work really well for me. The first Thursdays work really well.
First Thursday? Okay. And another thing, 11 a.m. or afternoons, since mornings are busy, should we be doing 1 p.m., 2 p.m., anything like that, or is 11 a.m. okay for everyone?
I'm good on time. The time's fine for me.
I'm good as well, 11 a.m.
11 is fine.
So then the next meeting will be April 1st at 11 a.m. And if you have any agenda items, please send them to me so I can send them to Guillermo after we discuss it, especially if there's possible action. Let's just have a quick discussion and then I'll still send those to him. And we need to submit those. It's 5 days ahead. Guillermo, how many days do you need us to ahead before sending them in? 3? So by, I guess by the 29th, 30th to be. be safe, please email it to me. And my email, I'm adding it on here. It's in the chat. All right, y'all. Well, if there's no other comments, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time, all the collaboration. Really feel like we're catching we're starting to get the wheels off the ground. So, really excited about that and for our continued participation consistently. So thank you all. Have a great afternoon. And I'd like to motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thank you all. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.